saw in the film. Our talented director, Drew, who showed us that transformation can be quiet and cozy and powerful all at the same time. And leading us in this talk is one of my great friends and mentors, who most of you'll know is Gloria Terry from TCFE.
These are not exactly made for short people. I may just lean. You know, just in the interest of time, I'm not going to read everybody's bio, but for those of you that are here for the TCFE conference, we owe it to these remarkable human beings for you to please read their bio. They're extraordinarily accomplished people. But I do want to say a few things. To Sonia, you're a visionary, an absolute visionary who single-handedly is redefining what survivorship is. From something that happened to somebody to something that you're rising like a phoenix out of the ashes, and there's nothing that can stop you. To Sherry, I just want to say you're like the nicest badass I've ever seen. Like just the absolute nicest. And Drew, I said this the other day, you're an accomplished producer, director, and you do it with such humility. But most importantly, you managed to capture everyone's humanity in this film. And there is no greater gift that you have than to be able to convey that through film. So would you guys give them a round? We've got a few prepared questions, but absolutely, you all, whatever you're willing to share with us is will be invited. So Sonia, let me start with you. What do you feel most proud of when you're watching Survivor Made?
Is that better?
Oh, yeah.
I think it's what you said, it's the humanity. Not even the humanity of everyone in the film, but I feel more human watching it. Everything that I watch is trying to draw an emotion out of me, is trying to raise my cortisol or speed up my adrenaline, or make me react from a place of fear or something. And this is not fast-paced. You're not worried that someone's gonna die. You know, it's just humans. It's humans in all the struggle and all the joy and all the transformation. And we need to see more of that. It's like this film is the antidote to the 2024 election and social media and Palestine. And, you know, it's just, I feel more human. And I am so proud that I was a tiny part of creating something that had that impact. Big part.
Thank you. Thank you. Drew, let me ask you a question. As it pertains to this film, what was it like to work with survivors, with an entire Survivor cast and crew in creating this?
Wow. It was a wild gift. You know, it was, making a film is just a crazy thing to do under any circumstances. You know, we're like barging into people's lives. We're literally hiding in the corner of the room covered in stacks of boxes, or in the back seat of a car with the backpack over my head. Or, you know, like, if I do my job well, you don't ever think about me, because that's how I think of it. It doesn't occur to you that I exist. I hope that I disappear, but I'm literally in the room of every shot that you saw. So we're really, really close. It's very intimate, and it's stressful. And so doing that with a crew of all survivors, the cast of all survivors, knowing that we're going into this super stressful, super intimate experience, there were a lot of moments where we're like, is this like a crazy psychological experiment we're doing? And I couldn't be more grateful, because every time something stressful happened, which inevitably happens in the making of a film, everybody, like when tension got high, it was like all of us knew how to take care of each other, and to be like, oh, now it's her turn, she needs a little extra support right now. Oh, it's her who needs a little extra support. Oh, and it was really beautiful to see it happening, where I was like, oh, this is what happens. It's so different from every single other film set I've been on, where no one's trauma informed. People yell at you, they scream at you, even if you didn't actually make a mistake, even if they made the mistake. And they're throwing things at, and it's just a recreating systems of harm. So it was, I was nervous about it, and I'm so, I just feel like it was such a wild gift, because everyone was so sweet, and I always say I'm ready to join the Church of Cherry.
Yes.
I learned so much from the folks in our film, and I think about them every day, so I'm just so grateful.
Well, I think you captured the sisterhood that was there beautifully. So, Cherry, and then I heard you hablando español, ¿sí? Poquito, right? The diverse cast of Survivor Made demonstrates that violence can happen to anyone, but that healing is also possible for everyone. How do you think your culture impacted your journey?
Thank you so much for experiencing this moment with us. And thank you, everyone.
Can we just do another round of applause for Cherry?
Every time I watch the documentary, I've always cried, and today I forgot to bring some tissue. And luckily, Javi was there to hug me, and my heart is so full. And thank you for making it a success tonight. So to answer your question, Victoria, my Filipino values has deeply shaped my journey of healing and my journey in the abusive relationship. In the Philippines, we do have this Catholic base religious country. So growing up, I have to keep my values intact, and even when I stayed here in America, that my values are still very powerful. So in my mindset, I had to stay in the relationship because I believe in like a for richer or poorer, or till death do us part, in sickness and in health. I tried to help him or fix him for him to become better, but down the road I realized that that's not the case. And also I grew up that violence in my country is normalized because I had a neighbor when I was a kid, and I can hear her being abused by her partner, and everyone pretended not to notice. So I was like, oh, it's normal. And also our country was colonized over and over repeatedly for centuries. And the gender roles were amplified as well. And so there are so many horrible things that happened to our people, and especially to women. And when you look back today, we're still kind of have the mentality of like, submit to your husband, serve your husband, make him happy. So, but since I live here, and there was kind of like a turning point that I have to do something, and I have to reframe my mindset, and I have to be open and change and just change my narrative. So I realized that I was really in a severe situation, so I left. I went to the shelter. The shelter provided me with resources, and then I got out of the shelter. I got a degree in business afterwards, and then I met my friend Anna at the shelter at that time too, and we were neighbors, and I was introduced to Gifted and Free From, and from there I just thrived and I just grew as a person, and I've learned so much because I have this ecosystem of big community just helping people, and yeah, and seeing you as a
Those conversations that talk about reaching the goal and looking at people's strengths and what the financial goal was, how of that rivals what's happening in any Fortune 500 company? And it is a group of talented, brilliant women who are making it happen. So Drew, I have a question for you. So we were excited to learn that you're actually from Austin. And what piece of advice would you give your younger self?
Well, there are a lot of people telling me what to do when I was a teenager. I went to Austin High. And it was terrible advice. So I wish I could go back in time and say to teenage me, like, hey, just because you're getting harmed at home doesn't mean that that's like what your life is supposed to be like. So don't run around harming yourself or attaching to partners who remind you of home in that they harm you. And if home is a place that's so awful that you have to run away at 13, like, don't go to the person that feels like home. Run the other direction. But, when I was a teenager, and I don't know, maybe this is all teenagers, I didn't listen to any advice, even if it was good. So as much as I wish I could, go back in time and say that, even if there was time travel, it probably wouldn't work, because I would just be like, you don't know anything. You can't save me.
Don't we all know? Didn't we all?
So maybe the better answer would be that I would go over to the Sonic on South Lamar, where I worked as a car hop. Yeah. Do you want ketchup and fries with that? Tots. Tots is always the answer. But I would go there and take her to therapy. So that someone with good training could ask her questions instead of just telling her what to do, and guide her to that realization, which is, what happened just 20 years later. Thank you for asking.
Thank you, Drew. So this is for the entire group. Who would you want to dedicate this film to? That's part one of the question. And part two would be, we're in Austin, and there's several people here from Austin, but there's a lot of people from all across the state. What do you want them to do after having watched this film? So who do you want to dedicate the film to? And what do you want these folks to do with what they've seen?
Well, I like to dedicate this film to our fellow survivors. And because you asked me the teen self question, I think I'd specifically like to dedicate it to the other teenagers who are the ones that took me in, including one who's right there. She's not a teenager anymore, sorry, Crystal. But my high school friends who let me come live with them. And literally, even after just meeting me, were like, where are you sleeping tonight? I was like, oh, I don't know. Oh, why don't you just come to my apartment? Okay, and in my head being like, just be cool. Just be cool. And now, 20 years later, we're still friends. So I'd like to dedicate it to, unfortunately, the adults in my life failed me, but there were, luckily, extremely fortunate, I feel super blessed that there were other teenagers who, thank you, who saved me. And we took turns kind of saving each other, and I think that's, something that is a common experience for survivors. And then, as for what I hope y'all do, well, there's so many things, but vote for Colin Allred, vote for Kamala Harris, vote for And if you see a teenager who's acting crazy, maybe instead of just saying that girl's not allowed over anymore, ask what's going on in her home. Maybe you should invite her over tonight and see if she needs a safe place to stay.
I think first and foremost, the film is for the gifted team. But we made the film for survivors, and this film has so far only been seen by an incredibly intimate group of people, but the number of people who in seeing the film have recognized and validated their own survivorship. So when I say it's for survivors, it's also for the people that don't yet recognize themselves as survivors. It's for anyone who's been subjected to gender-based violence. What you can do is you can commit to telling one person to go rent this film when it comes out. It'll be available online November 22nd. Free for anyone who needs it, free, paid for anyone who can pay. Tell one person to watch it. And my hope is that we create such a ripple effect with this movie that Hollywood realizes that telling stories of violence against survivors isn't what we want, and that what we want is survivors' joy.
Sonia beat me to it when she said gifted team and survivors. So I would like to dedicate this film to my mother, who is also a domestic violence survivor. And growing up with my mom, I learned a lot from her, and I kind of mirrored some of her traits, the codependency and the people-pleasing personality. But over the years, I've gotten over it too, and I've learned how to be stronger and to stand my ground and to say no at times and to set my boundaries. And I learned all of that with working at Gifted. So what I can say to everyone, I want to echo Sonia when she said that everyone has a part to play, a role to play, no matter how small it is or how big it is. If you are a yoga instructor, you can volunteer and have some yoga classes for survivors, for their physical trauma healing, for banking and finance people who are very, very good at teaching survivors how to manage and budget their finances, volunteering your time and sharing your talents with our fellow survivors. There's so many things that I can enumerate. The law enforcement sector, some of the nonprofit sector, and the legal sector, medical, healthcare sector. Just do what you were placed on earth for. Think about one thing that you can share to a survivor to help them and assist them and guide them in their journey. And that is all. Thank you.
Thank you, Carrie. Carrie, I do have a question for you. So at the end of the film, we see that we learn that you launched her Fortitude.
Woo!
Right. And so I'm curious to know, what can counselors and advocates do to support a survivor's entrepreneurial spirit? And you're speaking to a room full of advocates and that are talking to survivors every day.
Awesome to hear that. So her Fortitude, it was kind of like a long process for it to be brought up or launched, brought out to the world. I had this journey. I was out of the relationship for 8 years now, and this year was kind of like the moment, that like I have to step to another level. You know, I have to create another stream of income. And I can say that every survivor, they have like different journeys. Like some survivors are like not ready for entrepreneurship. Some survivors like need this and that. It's entirely different because like I had to go through step by step, and along the way I met like case managers who helped me with my divorce papers, and I had a teacher who helped me like how to budget, how to do my finances, who taught me like life skills. I also sought help from therapists, and my kids have therapists as well. And then I also had like mentors. So I was like really open for change and all of these resources, and I just embraced everything. Like I just grabbed every opportunity that I have in order to equip myself to be stronger, to be ready, to become who I am, and to become an entrepreneur. So one thing that advocates and counselor can do, because every survivor, they have like a different need and they have a different journey, is to really try to understand and try to listen. Just like what Drew was saying earlier, the body language, or like what they're talking about, or like if they're having problems like in their school, you know, if they're getting bullied or whatnot. So yeah, it really comes from just listening and taking the time, and a lot of like compassion and care and empathy. And if you are immersed in a community like Gifted and Free From, boundless possibilities happen.
Sonia, when you speak, you're brilliant. And I'm like right there, I'm like, where's the hill we're gonna charge? Let's go. It also is, it sounds like poetry. It sounds like poetry for those of us in the movement. So I want to ask you about you talk about an abundant, that this is an abundant movement, and while you're recognizing that there's many challenges, and the crisis that we encounter in this, we also find unexpected places with abundance. Would you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, thank you for saying that, Gloria, because I was watching this film and I was like, oh my God, I talk so slowly. It's like, I've got to get to my words faster. Thank you, I appreciate it.
Makes you easier to edit. It's a good thing.
This is an incredibly abundant movement, hiding under layers and layers and layers of scarcity. And the abundance is everyone in this room. The abundance is all of the survivors that make up this movement. It's all of the talent. It's all of the care. I mean, for as little as anyone in this movement gets paid, there is no shortage of people that are ready and willing to do this work. And there's no shortage of people who show up every single day to support survivors. And there's no shortage of survivors that show up every single day for their families and their children. That's the abundance. I think what else is abundant is the multitude of strategies that exist to get us to a world in which there is no gender violence. The abundance, I think, lies in truly believing that we can live in a world without gender violence. I think most of our society doesn't believe it, and therein is the core of that scarcity. And I think we live in a world where people think this is just part of life, and so any money spent on trying to end it is a waste of money. But the only thing that is scarce is the resources to do this work. There's no scarcity of talent, there's no scarcity of heart, there's no scarcity of ideas or creativity. So the part that we have to fix is the scarcity of resources.
Can I say one thing about Sonia's writing? Because when we were going to film that speech in DC, we reached out to be like, hey, could we read the speech? It helps me, to think of like, what imagery should I be prepared to film to best cover the speech? Like, what what shots do we want to put on screen while y'all are listening to her beautiful speech? And she was like, it's not done yet. I don't know. It's not done. Or I don't know. And this speech came in like a couple days before
The day before.
the day before the event. Thank you. And I was like, oh, good, I got the speech. And I was reading it on my phone, like on a plane to DC or something. And I was just like, it was like teardrops on the phone. Like just fully crying on the airplane. I was like, it's so beautiful.
I mean, anyone that has children knows that what you can do in 2 hours on a plane the day before you're supposed to give a keynote speech once you have children is very different than what you could have done before you had children.
Well,
Thank you, Drew.
yeah, I mean, so I'm so glad that the language comes through in the film to you and to viewers because we were so moved by it. It was like a whole text thread behind your back of being like, this is the speech she was saying was not that good or wasn't quite done. And we're like, what the heck? So thank you and brava.
I want to say thank you. It was an honor and a privilege to just stand on stage with you and receive a little bit of that light directly. You
Thank you,
weaved a
Gloria.
tapestry that is beautiful. Those are the stories I'd rather tell than the stories of devastation. Right? So thank you.
Thank you. I just want to echo this QR code. Really, like, with everything that we do at Freeform, there's like the immediate motive and then there's the motive to fuck shit up. And the fuck shit up of this documentary is to teach Hollywood how to tell stories about survivors. So if you share your feedback, it's only going to generate more and more momentum for this film. So thank you.
Don't forget to shop at Gifted.
Holidays are coming, y'all. Again, thank you, Rachna. I don't know if there was a closing component.
Thank you.
I'm the closing component. Thank you all so much for being here tonight, for experiencing this with us. I want to point out Cherry's awesome sweatshirt. It is our survivor-made sweatshirt and a reminder that we all come from a lineage of survivors, and it's honoring survivor creativity and entrepreneurship. And we also have our second version, Our Healing Happens Here, which is a testament to Gifted, where so much healing happens. And thank you again for being here. We would love your thoughts, as Sonia mentioned, and leave a review. And our team will be capturing some last reviews as you leave, but we hope you'll hang out, talk to each other, and share the film with others in your life. Thank you so much for being here.